but I'm thinking about trying to implement dragging first. Not really sure if I'm gonna be able to implement, and there's two different approaches that I was thinking about. I searched for videos, so watched this video here just now, and this one I watched yesterday. And there's this comment here where they explain how to do it from GDScript. I want to do it from C++. So, and also ask ChatGPT, and then the implementation I have there is from ChatGPT. But there's two different ways to implement. One is to implement on the input and the process function from the graph node class, and the other one is to implement on the camera. And before I was thinking that it's probably better to try to implement on the graph, so that is not coupled with the camera. But then after thinking more about it, I think it's probably better to try to implement on the camera, because if you implement on the node, then each node you add to the simulation is going to increase the amount of processing that the node does. So it just seems that implementing on the camera is just more effective. But I'm not 100% sure, because the way that they recommend to implement is by using ray tracing, which I think makes sense because you have to convert the mouse position into 3D space. And the way you do that is by projecting a ray into 3D space, and then intersecting with a plane to see if it hits the object. And it looks like there is some methods on Godot to do this. And then after you do this, you move the object based on the mouse position. But obviously I'm not really sure how to do this. I'm gonna see if I'm able to do it. If it is too hard, then I'm gonna try to move on to the other ones probably. This other one is because I realized later that the signal serializer class I have that I created to be able to create things from C++ code and serialize the signals so that I can open them from the editor or from the engine. Because if you don't do that, if you try to connect them from C++, they are not saved into the sync file, so you lose the information. So I was thinking more about this because the way that I did there, I'm not really sure if it's gonna work, because I'm setting the names of the nodes of some of the nodes later after I'm going to subscribe them on the signal serializer. So the issue is if you subscribe the nodes with one name and then you change the name of the nodes later, it's probably gonna break the signal serializer, because the signal serializer is still gonna have their old name, but I'm not really sure if that's the case or not. So I was thinking more about this. I'm not really sure if I'm going to be able to find another approach. So one thing that I was thinking about is changing the object class, or both the object and the node class, and then figuring out a way to serialize the signals without having to create another class. But I'm not really sure if that's possible, because you always come down to needing to have something centralized, I think. Or I can see if I can change the function. I think probably it might be possible if if I change the connect function from the object, and then I change the emit signal function, so that if there is a flag variable or something inside of the object class, it calls connect before it emits the signal, if that makes sense. Which would mean that you would have the function subscribed. So I guess this is one approach, because it's kind of annoying to have it as a part of another class, because it increases the chances that I'm gonna make a mistake. So it might be better to just and it's kind of annoying as well when you're writing the code to remember the class. So it might be better to just try to do it the other way of changing the object class. So maybe I'll try to do this. And the other stuff that I have to do is I was able to create a class. I had to create another class to create the component that creates. It's basically the same functionality as the icons here, where you click, it changes whatever shows up here. And I had to put this inside of another component because of the signals thing. Because just based on the layout there and the way that the signals work, it was kind of annoying to figure out a way to connect them from outside, so I thought that it might be better to connect them from a class. And this is like one of the main points where I'm still struggling to know or to figure out what is the best approach, because I knew from the beginning that this is like where the complexity is going to be, because is on the connection of different parts of different classes that encapsulate different things. That is going to be hard to figure out how to do it. Because the easiest solution is always going to be to create another class and then encapsulate everything on the class. But maybe if I do the signals the other way, it might solve this as well. Not really sure. The pop-up menu that I'm gonna try to do the same thing that they do here on the editor to have the options, and I'm probably gonna have to create another class as well because the pop-up menu depends on runtime stuff that you do when you're creating the node. So from the editor perspective, it works because the editor runs in the same instance as the engine and everything. So it just replaces the way that the engine does the setup. But if you want to cache the scene, then you lose the information from the setup on the runtime. And there's also something I've seen on the Discord question. It looks like some other people are having problems with Windows as well to set up the tooltips. So I might have to do it with something else as well from Godot, from display something. So it might be something else, the issue. But I think probably the way that I'm gonna go with is to implement another class and then just try to create. And if it doesn't change anything, then I might go back to the other stuff. But here basically I had to change the minimum size of this because this stuff here was overflowing on the other one. So I want to study the file system class, which I'm probably gonna have to study anyway because I wanna put the file system class here as the first option. This looks like it is too big as well. Oh no, I would put here in the place that there is the physics. So the first option would be the file system. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. And here it doesn't, it looks like it doesn't overflow here. I created another file and it doesn't. So I think that they already looked a little bit into it. It looks like they do some custom stuff there or something with the split container. So I wanna see if I can figure that out and implement the same logic. Because the way that I'm doing here is I'm thinking about each panel is gonna have a unique name and it's gonna be like a doc. And then I can put whatever elements I want on the doc based on the way that I set the names, which is what I did with the icon sidebar. So I made the logic based on the icon sidebar content, which is also another thing that I'm not really sure if is the best because there are chances to there are more failures, more things you remember when you create the node, which is not very good. This is the issue that I was having, is because you can't make the doc as part of the component because of the way that the splits work. So if you try to put this panel here in the same place as the icon sidebar, then the right parts of the thing gets fixed because the split container only works if you have two children on the same split, and that's the issue. So for that reason, I couldn't put them on the same class. And that's so like if you put them on the same, this doesn't move. That's the problem. Yeah, but let's see how to do this. So last time that I was trying to do this, yeah, I was trying to change this class here, but now I'm probably gonna do something different. I'm probably gonna do on the standard camera there. So I have the previous mouse position here. So I think it's this one that I have to change. So probably here. Maybe I will do it regardless of whether or not it's pending or not. They should always update. So there's something on the documentation as well, I think, that they say that it's probably better to put some update logic or something on the process of the class, the physics process, because the space gets locked on the input. but I'm not really sure what they mean by this. It was on these pages here. I'm gonna put some time here. So after some time, I'm probably gonna take a break. Yeah, this part here. So I'm thinking that it probably might be better to update the mouse position on the physics process. I don't remember. So when you set the process from C++, you have to call a function on the class, but there are several different functions to determine what kind of processes the class is gonna run. But I don't remember if the process is the same as the physics process, the variable you have to set. But I guess that's is easy to look or to test. So I think the ChatGPT solution was that I had on the other class there was it did recommend should do this stuff here. So under so it basically sets the dragging on the I think you set the dragging on the inputs and then you do the dragging on the notification physics process. That's probably what I'm gonna do. So probably this one you have to project. I got mouse movements is you recommend this stuff. These functions that it recommends are wrong. So the last time that I did this, I just compiled this to like quickly see if it's gonna work, but I didn't test anything. Because if it worked, then obviously it's just easier to go with whatever ChatGPT said. So I can move on to the other stuff. So this is kind of oh, also it does the swap here. So it gets the last mouse position from the. So that's probably what I'm gonna do. But on the camera, I think I already have the last mouse. So it gets the previous mouse position from the click events that happens on the inputs. So the way that it works is that on Godot is on C++, the equivalent of the input function that you can write on GDScript is going to be just input from this, which is a virtual function that they declare on the node class that you can override on any class you want to handle inputs. So you have this input function, and you have the GUI input for GUI events that are more for control nodes from what I've seen. the file system has a callback function, can also connect to the GUI input events. And there is a difference, I think, which is the order in which they happen. Godot has some, I forgot which page it is on the documentation, but they do talk about the order somewhere. Anatomy. I think it's this one, as maybe is before. Yeah, so basically here. So on the camera cast, so this is basically the order of which event happens. And I think that the last one is this one, and the first one is this one. So when the user interacts with the screen, with the display server, which manages the screen, the window, the first event that is going to be triggered is this one, and then it's going to go on. And if you want, so the reason why I put the event on the camera as it is now on the unhandled input function is because it allows you to to only run the events if other events were not called. So for example, if you have a GUI element in front of the visualization of a 3D world, you don't want the world to move in the same way that, like if you have the mouse inside of one of the sliders, for example, you don't want to pan the world when you're supposed to change the value of the slider. So the slider is supposed to come first and the camera second. So it just puts on the other parts of the hierarchy, and then I think on some situations it will automatically cut. So like the equivalent on the browser would be event propagation. So we can use stop event propagation or something like that. It's a standard function from the browser at any point on the cycle, and then it just stops the event from propagating each other DOM elements. So the browser, it happens from the outside, which is the roots of the tree. And then let's say you click on a div that is inside of another div. Just gonna navigate from the top, and then it's gonna go to that point, the target. And then from that point, it's gonna trigger the event on all the way up. Unless you call stop event propagation, then it doesn't call on the other ones. It's basically the same logic here on Godot. And then on C++, you can you determine different types. So this function is going to be called for all types of events, and you can cast different types based on the reference here. So and that's usually how they do it on the other classes as well. So this would be a mouse button events, and then you just check to see if it's valid. If it's valid, then the function is running at the mouse inputs event. And this is for mouse motion, so mouse move from the browser would be the equivalent. And then here I'm doing them on the input function now. Because I think for this stuff it doesn't matter because I'm not using the space there. So probably what I have to do is to create two different functions. Oh, this as well, this camera implementation is just basically translating the stuff that they use on the camera of the editor. So the editor camera, I just took the parts from the editor camera and implemented here. And I think they also, yeah, they use the notification process to update the camera as well. So I guess it's the same thing. So I'm gonna create another one. Oh, this one I was using, I'm not really sure if I'm gonna do this, but there's a problem with this camera because on the beginning, like you have to determine the Z distance from the camera to the visualization by the cursor, which I don't like very much because a lot of situations wanna choose different starting points for the camera, but I guess it's fine. Like if I want to change, it's kind of weird. Like I guess you have to place the camera at the 0 position to work, I think. Because if you don't, then it looks like it starts like in the first event there's a clipping or something like that. Like the camera moves. It looks like it teleports to the new position. And I think it's because of the starting position of the camera. Because it starts based on this. But I'm not really sure if I put 0 if it's gonna do anything. Yeah, so this is the weird thing. So in the very beginning, the first time you scroll, it does something weird. And I think it's because of the cursor distance there. That's whatever. This should be actually this is here for this. So I think this is fine if I update here. I don't think it matters too much if you put inside of the condition here. So this is basically how you check if the mouse is pressed or not. So this indicates that it's a mouse event. Then if it is valid, it's gonna go over here. And then you do this switch. You got the index, and then you have the different types of events. So wheel up, wheel down. So the mouse left is when you do the left click on the mouse, obviously. And then usually the way that it works is you use a flag variable. Then you get the position at the moment that the mouse was clicked, and then you update the position on the mouse move events. But because of the thing about the space, I think it's better to put the functionality on the physics process instead of doing the same place that I did here. So I think that the issue there, that the reason why it looks like it's teleporting is because of this difference of setting on the inputs and then updating on the process, because it only updates the values of the cursor on the input, I think. The distance here. But when I initialize there, it messes up the. It seems that it is even worse. So, so I have to create another variable, I think. Maybe I can use the same variable. So just use spam camera and then just differentiate based on the process to see. So let me look into this one. So here, it's getting the position the same way that I'm doing there. Also, yeah, maybe I have to do another because it only has to be. Hmm. This might be annoying actually. I might have to do it. Maybe not. If I use two flag variables, then I think it's fine because I can put the condition on the other one. So I think I have to check to do this stuff here to see. I'm gonna probably get from the tutorial there. Uh, so I'm gonna put a dragging variable into the camera. So basically, I need to check to see if the mouse is inside of an object or not, and then I need to make the other movements of the camera false if the object is on the camera on the object. If the mouse is on the object, I have to. I think this one like this. So I think that projecting you just this. But this is this part I think is better to see if I can translate from here the way that they did it. So the gets world space. I think that there isn't any other way to do this. I think for the first time to check to see if the mouse is inside, that should be on the inputs. So you do the intersection based to see if the mouse is inside of an object, and then on the physics you update. So the origin is this position. It's using normal and ChatGPT set direction, but it's probably the tutorial, even though it's older, it's probably right. Obviously, because I think that it doesn't have this function. Yeah. So they probably changed at some point. Yeah. So they're both vector trees. This is an issue though because I'm gonna. I think yeah it takes a vector tree and a point tree. A point tree is just type def that is the same as vector tree. So vector tree or mouse origin. equals this, and then you do. So I don't understand very well why the. Maybe I can spend some time looking into the functions to understand more. But obviously, I understand the concept of ray. So it's just like you're shooting the ray on 3D. And the reason I have to do this is because obviously there's going to be a translation between the 2D screen to the 3D world, because it works based on clipping coordinates. And I always recommend as well to watch Scratch a Pixel that has amazing articles about this. And I basically learn everything from them, I think. So they explain very well how it works. But you take into consideration the projection, because when you're moving the mouse on 2D, if you don't project, I think the movement's not going to be very accurate, because the object that you're moving is going to move at a different pace than the mouse because of the Z coordinates. So I think that's the reason why it's probably better to project, but it's also more annoying and harder, I think. And then ray tracing is this process of shooting the ray from a certain point, which would be the mouse. So you're shooting a ray from the mouse position into a 3D world space, and then seeing where it hits. And the calculation to see where it hits is based on the perspective divide, which is the conversion from 2D to 3D, which is the implemented on the functions. But I don't understand the implementation, obviously, because I didn't study this. So mouse N probably. And these functions are from the camera. So the other approach that I was saying, where you implement on the class itself and not on the camera, and I only realized this after I got the response from ChatGPT, but you can get the camera from the viewports by calling the get viewport function. So it's just an extra step, you get the camera. There might be problems with this approach as well, because you can have multiple viewports on a scene, and I'm not really sure how it would work with that. So I don't understand why it's always -1 on the orthogonal. I guess it's because like it's a flat surface, so the normal would be like it actually has to be like the same direction as the camera. Uh, so it's because in the way that they do it there is similar to the way that I think OpenGL. I don't remember the other frameworks, but I think that Maya is different. Depending on which kind of framework you're gonna use, the Z index has a different value. But on Godot, I think the negative is when you're facing the visualization, and positive is facing the camera. So -1 is just a vector like facing the camera as well, like no, facing the same direction of the camera, if the camera is pointing to the scene. So I think the reason why it's -1 is because it's plane on the orthogonal, but here is just probably translating, is doing the perspective, or translating from viewports coordinates to from screen coordinates to the world coordinates. I think that's probably what's happening. It's translating the camera coordinates to the camera coordinates at the position, this position. So camera coordinates, I think, are local coordinates. And global coordinates transform. So it gets the global coordinates from the camera. The translation is very confusing, but as far as I understand now, the way that it works is that the local coordinates is just the best way to think about it, as far as I understand now, is just a matrix that holds the state of an object on the 3D space. And the global coordinates are like the synchronicity of all the other local coordinates. So the global coordinates would be from the perspective of the world itself, the coordinates of that object on space. The local coordinates is from the perspective of the object in relationship to the world. So it looks like it's getting the global coordinates from the camera. This X form is kind of weird. I don't remember what it does. It's just dot product plus columns. This one, like I don't remember exactly the details, but it's pretty familiar, and I do think it's translating from screen coordinates into world coordinates. But I don't remember really well. It probably is because it only has the x and y, and the near plane. Just getting the projection based on the near plane. And the near is just a value. So I think that the reason why the near is just a value is because you can derive. So the near is supposed to be the plane, and the plane is on the screen you're seeing, and the far plane is what creates the projection because it's like a pyramid, where the eye would be uh, the user, which is outside of the screen, as far as I understand now. And you save this as floats because it's easier, so you can derive the other values based on this one, should be the center, I think, of the near plane. So this is the point position, viewport size width times sure. Oh no, guess the. So this is the position of the point based on the camera. So it's taking the cross product of the global canvas transform adjusted to the stretch form transform with the viewport coordinates. The cross product, obviously, I remember that it just gets the perpendicular vector. I don't remember the dot product, what it means. I think just getting the size, like maybe it's the distance, because obviously it's gonna be like a Pythagoras theorem, but architecture. There's the distance from the camera to the point, I think. So maybe I'm gonna see if ChatGPT says anything. think it's the distance between the camera and the mouse position, probably. But that wouldn't make a lot of sense. Also, it's taking the projection. It's like a vector that represents the direction between the distance of the points and the camera. So I guess it's just gonna, so the intersection probably happens to see if, obviously it's gonna happen to see if the object is on the direction. So it's multiplying by, also this returns the unit vector probably. I'm not really sure if it makes sense the way that I'm thinking, but I'm thinking that like it is a direction vector that is going to represent the direction from the camera to the points, the same coordinates. But I'm not really sure, and it's like is the normalized vector, but normalized just means that it's between 0 and 1, I think. Which is, means it's just gonna get the direction of the vector, and then you multiply by 2000 by to determine the depth you want. But I'm not 100% sure if that's what's going on. I'm trying to understand this because if it doesn't work there, then I'm gonna have to try other things. So it's much better if I understand what is going on. Oh, so this is the first one. Then it's gonna pass this to this. don't understand why. No. It's very annoying. Obviously, I understand it's just like different standards based on different things, but these little nuances here is like a pain in the ass. I think he's getting the point coordinates based on the camera coordinates, and then it translates to. But that, so first it gets the coordinates of the point from the camera's perspective, on camera coordinates, and then it converts the coordinates to. But that doesn't make sense. I guess it's because I don't understand what the values are here. It says that, like in my mind, this should be global roads transform coordinates for the camera. It's global canvas transform. So maybe this is. Uh, so I think he's looking at the point from the camera's perspective in the first part, and then he gets the viewport from the camera and translates the point coordinates to road coordinates, maybe based on the viewports. So it's translating. So first it's getting the position of the mouse on the viewport from the camera's perspective, and then it translates that position to the world coordinates. I think that's what it's doing, but I'm not sure. Then after this, it's gonna do the. So this is the camera transform, the basis. I think I'm not really sure what it is. So the basis is the 3 by 3 matrix. So the origin is probably the position of the thing. The basics is the matrix that contains the transformation, I think. So it gets the transformation matrix from the camera, and then it does the dot product, which is like ChatGPT says. Yeah, I do think that it's just the is doing the dot product, and then it's just increasing to take into account the offset of translation, and then it normalizes. I guess, but like the confusion that I have is whether or not this Like, does this return on normal, or why does it return on normal? 'Cause I don't understand the. Oh, so this is a difference. So this is just doing the dot product, but I assume it's the same thing because it's just the other one's for 2D. They're just gonna basically do the dot product of the position of the mouse in the world corners of the camera. If the camera transform, but that wouldn't make any sense. I guess it does because it's just like creating the array from the points. And then it gets to normalize. It's like a vector that points, like you're shooting the laser from the camera's perspective. It's basically saying like what is the direction of the vector in relationship to the camera? What is the direction of the point of the mouse in relationship to the camera into 3D world space? And then it normalizes to get the unit vector. So I guess I understand, but it's kind of confusing to be honest. But it's probably because I don't know very well the. This is something that I had the problem since the beginning because the names of the functions are kind of confusing to understand. But also, it's kind of like remembering the significance of the dot product is kind of confusing as well. As the way that I think about it is you're getting the vector that is gonna have the magnitude of both and the direction that is like the somewhere in between both, depending on the magnitude of both vectors and the angle between them, or the physical representation of that. Well, what is confusing is the name because I'm not really sure if it is returning a normal vector to a surface, let's say. It's probably like if it is that, it's kind of confusing to understand. I guess the confusing part is the direction of the vector. I guess I'm just gonna ask this and then think about it later. This is what I'm thinking. I think the name's kind of confusing. A direction vector for array. So it's basically taking the direction of the mouse and in relationship to the camera and returning a vector. I think from the camera's perspective, where the mouse would be located into the world space. The thing that's kind of confusing is the name because When I read the normal, it implies that it's gonna be a normal short surface, but I'm not 100% sure if that. I think it is more likely that it is this thing where you're just getting the position of the mouse in relation with the camera in the road space. Then you multiply by 2000 to get like the distance of the vector, the direction. So let me see if I can understand the other stops. Just after this one. So here is basically going to be the same thing. So it just returns the origin. Okay, so I guys understand. So on should when is perspective project when is orthogonal is going to be different because it's a box. So the beginning matters, but on the perspective is always assuming the origin of the camera because the end is going to be the final position of the mouse on 3D space. So how would you? I guess I'm gonna see. So based on the other one that I copied from ChatGPT as well, it, I'm not really sure if I didn't copy this one, but it did say something. So I guess I'm just gonna try to see there from the tutorial, because now I think that's so you have the beginning position of the mouse, which is the camera basis, the camera origin, and then the end, which is the like the full vector from the camera to the mouse position in 3D world. And obviously to see if it hits something, you need to. And the problem is, but not just see if you hit, but if you are inside of the thing. So the question is why you need to clip or to intersect with this space. So I'm just gonna copy the code here and see. I'm probably gonna have to change the functions. So var intersection. On this tutorial, I think he makes it so that the object looks into the mouse. I guess I'm gonna have to probably ask GPT or see. Oh, I guess the function itself is gonna see. Yeah, but that's not very good. That's the problem. Because I think that this function intersect ray is gonna check if the ray hits any target between the end and the beginning. But I only wanna see. So I guess I could take the position of objects, but that would be. The easiest approach that I'm thinking about is like you just get the mouse end, which is the position of the mouse, and then you check to see the geometry you have. But this is the problem because if you want to check on the entire geometry, you're gonna have to loop over everything. So yes, this is why it makes more sense to try to get it from this thing. Get world 3D, space state. I'm not really sure if I'm able to do this here. Because I'm not really sure if the space state's gonna be locked on the input function. It doesn't take these arguments. think it's probably is empty. Yeah. So this have position. And this is a so I probably have to create another. So this would go here, and I probably need to create another previous mouse position because this one's gonna be on 3D. So this part here, I'm gonna spend some time trying to understand as well, to see if it makes sense. I'm gonna ask ChatGPT there, and then after this is gonna be this part here. So I'm just gonna copy. I don't know why he's using this here. Uh, Probably gonna just gonna copy the function. It's gonna be basically the same thing. You just got the normal. Hmm. So maybe you should keep true values, because I think what it's telling me to do is you get the first position of the mouse and then you just keep track. You do the delta to get the mouse movements. You do the delta on 3D space. So the first time that it's pressed, if it does hit, you update the mouse position, and then on the next time you just get the delta. So you query for getting you do the same process for getting the mouse position again, which would be this mouse end here. But I'm not really sure if it's better to put this on as part of the class. And the problem is I'm not really sure if this is gonna return as well. Like if this returns if anything along the ray hits, 'cause this is not very good. And maybe this has position is probably better because then you make sure that it's gonna have the position. Also put this outside. So I think for moving, you just do the same calculation. You take the delta. So create another variable, either inside of the class or on the function, and then you subtract from the original one, and then you update the variable in the same way that they have there. This is another question that's I'm not really sure if it's gonna intersect. Like I guess I'm just gonna ask if it's gonna intersect uh, mesh instances 3D or if it's just colliders. And this is another thing that I didn't think about. Like how I'm gonna get if I'm doing from the camera, then this is the annoying part. Like the thing that I'm not really sure, but I do think that it's better from the camera to see if it hits because you're only shooting one ray, and then if you do it from the node, you have to process all the nodes regardless. But then the annoying part on the camera is how do you get the object that you're gonna move? That's the issue. Well, ChatGPT says you can get the collider. I'm gonna copy this there and just change the name so because I'm probably gonna use this. This part's probably wrong. I guess I just changed that. think for getting the current mouse position, I mean that's probably ray origin. No, but that was just gonna be the camera. I guess the current mouse position would be the ray direction. So let me think about this. The problem is that's the magnitude. But if I assume the same for both, then I think it's fine. Yeah, but like it doesn't sound. If it is the way that I'm thinking about, the way that it works, then it doesn't sound correct because I'm thinking that the project ray normal is just gonna get the univector, that is the direction from the mouse position to the camera in 3D space, and then you're just multiplying by an arbitrary value, and then it's the intersection is gonna work based on whether or not there was some object along that path. But like this doesn't guarantee that you have like is the exact position of the mouse. And so the problem is how to get the mouse position on 3D without this value here. I guess it doesn't matter actually, now that I think about it. Because this rotate camera is just for rotating obviously. So this rotate camera works based on the wheel, and the other one is gonna work based on the. I guess this pen camera is the one. So it matters here. It does matter because of the other one. I do think there is a function there. I do remember, but I think I erased for scaling. I think there is a function for. I'm gonna ask that for ChatGPT. But I think there is a camera function for translating mouse coordinates to screen coordinates. Maybe we should just look into it to project something. The other thing I'm not really sure if it is possible to get the mouse. So there's two problems. One is getting the mouse, and the other one's getting the object that I'm going to move. So I can make a variable there on the camera class. I guess that's probably the easiest way, and then just get from the intersection. I guess I'm gonna do that first, just see if it works. The problem is I'm not really sure about the type. We're just gonna put object. Writing object. I think ref is probably not gonna work with object. Maybe create object pointer. As a object pointer. So and here I should probably reset every time. So I think that if this works, then if the rest of the stuff works, then probably it's gonna be enough. So what I'm gonna do is just change the dragon object position. The other problem is I'm gonna need to have access to the if if I do have I need to search. I need to find a way to synchronize this with the graph with the graph 3D class because the graph 3D creates a simulation. So when you're dragging, you should stop the simulation for that node. Otherwise, it messes things up. I'm not really sure if signal is the best way to do this. Maybe it is, but it's kind of complicated because then like the obvious way you should just connect based on the name, but that's kind of annoying as well because then it forces me to have a standard name for the Graph 3D. I guess I can. The easiest way is just connect with global signals probably. So just create a global signal for the camera, just send there, and then for the graph, it listens for the global signal. And then on the function of the global signal, yeah, but I guess I can emit the object. I can emit an object pointer because it's gonna be a variant. So I emit a global signal and then I send the object with the global signal. Then on the function that is gonna be the callback or the function that is gonna run is gonna be on the graph and is going to get based on the object it filters the graph to see. Or maybe it should just be like I don't send anything and I just no, but turning off the whole simulation is kind of bad. I don't remember how I did on the other one. I think I put a flag inside of the null class. So I probably that's the easiest way to do it. So I send the node, I get the name, then I set the flag. Then based on the simulation, I check to see if the node has the flag. If it doesn't, I stop. Maybe I can just put, instead of creating the other variable, just make it based on this dragging object thing. Because then I can see if it's... I'm just gonna leave it like this for now. Oh, this is another problem that I just realized. So probably I should... Uh, because the issue is the object has a label, so I need to translate the label as well. That's an issue. I guess in the beginning I'm gonna do... because I need to see if it's gonna work first. Then I think about this. But I'm pretty sure it's set position. But maybe I think I'll have to use dynamic cast. Hmm. Yeah, set position. Oh, 3D. So now the other thing is to figure out the mouse position. Maybe it's this thing that I was thinking about. So project position, but I'm not really sure if it is. This is basically the same calculation of the other one, just translating from viewports. And it's multiplying by this camera thing. Hmm. I guess I can try to see what happens, but I think it's probably not gonna work. It'll be like this. Or actually, I have to use the other one. Less perplexity as well. Maybe if I think you need to read this again because the main reason why I'm not doing on the inputs. Yeah, but I do think it makes sense to do on the physics process. But then, like, I'm unsure about this get mouse from the physics process. I guess this is the thing that I'm struggling to think about. And also, like, this thing about shooting the ray at an arbitrary distance is also confusing. But I guess it's just gonna take probably the first object it hits. Yeah, so if there's an object uh, behind, is gonna. Yeah, I'm not really sure, but I think it's gonna be the first probably. But this is an issue though. Like it doesn't make sense. Because if the only time that is safe to access is on physics process, then how do you capture the mouse? I'm gonna see if I can find something on the documentation about this. I'm gonna remove the other stuff from this one, and then I'm just gonna test to see. I think it's probably not gonna work, but I guess better to test and see. So I guess you need to put set physics process as well. So this one I have to change as well, I think. So this is the current, and then it updates the previous with the current. This gets the delta. So I don't need this one. And the main thing that I'm not really sure, there are two things. One is this multiplying by 2000 here. But I guess if you use the same, you just get the direction that you multiply by the length, which is the... But this is kind of weird as well. But I guess it makes sense because it has the magnitude. I'm not really sure though. Yeah, so let me see if it's gonna compile. I guess because it's not default values, you need to provide this other stuff here. Oh, it's because of the declaration. So this is the biggest problem here. I found this thing here. It seems that it is a drag and drop plugin, and it's based on the video here. I think it works. It's probably for another version. So if there isn't another way, I might have to do it on the nodes. So I get to the mask and the layer. But I'm gonna spend some time thinking about a different way to get, just see if the ray hits something or not. I don't think that this approach is very good. I'm just gonna run it. And maybe if I look into another class. Hmm. So maybe is meant to be used from the class. It's probably this one. I also have to import there or include. I forgot. Servers, physics, space. I'm gonna test like this first, see if it works. I'm already feeling tired, so I'm gonna take a break and then probably come back. Not sure. I'm probably not gonna be able to do this today because it's gonna require studying a bunch of stuff, which is very annoying. I'm probably gonna have to spend time studying the physics server and then because I have to understand more how it works. Like this, the other part I think I understand. I'm pretty sure that the way that I'm thinking about it is the correct way, but I'm not 100% sure, but pretty sure. The problem is the intersection of the ray that is the issue. And the other thing is like if I need to get the object to check to see if it is intersecting, then I think it doesn't make sense to implement it on the camera, and I should try the other approach again because then like it's gonna fall into the same problem where you're gonna have to loop over. I guess no, but it is kind of the same thing because either you are checking individually on each node at each frame on the process, or you're gonna have to loop over all of them to because they're all part of the geometry to see if any of them was hit, which is not very good. So I think if I'm forced to use the object, the thing that, but I guess for like implementing the check to see if there was a collision is not so simple as to because you need to get all the values between the beginning and the end, I think. It's not as simple as checking to see if the final point exists on the same space. As if I'm doing from the sphere point of view, for example, I could get the final points that I get here, the projected point of the mouse, and then I can check to see if it is on the same space as the sphere, but that doesn't make a lot of sense, I think, because the purpose of the ray is to have the trajectory from the camera to the mouse point, and then get the object that collides. And it probably gets the first object. So I think either way, I have to see how to implement this. I need to clarify how this makes sense, like these Curie parameters here. It's kind of frustrating because it seems overly complicated, to be honest. I have to include there. The problem is like I was planning on studying all this other stuff as well, but it doesn't fall into the. I was thinking about just getting rid of these problems here because they seem like they're easier, and then moving on to this other stuff, and then once I have everything, then maybe go back and study the other parts. So like the it doesn't. So I'm not really sure if it is worth it to spend a bunch of time now studying all of this stuff. That's what I'm contemplating. Because either I can spend, yeah, but maybe I'm forced to, but I think that obviously, like I always have the option to not solve now and just solve all the other stuff and then later solve this. Or I can spend a bunch of time studying the physics now and then moving on with the other stuff. Oh, this is for projecting. Hmm. So maybe I should be doing this here instead of this project position. I'm gonna like put it here. But then this is super weird. Because then it doesn't make sense because you would be like multiplying by the previous position. But I guess that like that does make sense. It's just the difference there. Because the one that counts is only the current one, but you get the difference so that there's a transition. Like so, you start off from the position where the mouse was clicked, and then you. So I think that probably makes sense. I'm just gonna put here as an option to try as well. It's basically the same thing, I think. Actually. I don't understand why seeing on the clear identifier. I guess it's because it's being declared inside of the class. Maybe I have to do this. So the biggest issue, oh, fuck, ran the wrong thing there. Biggest issue is the intersect ray here that I need to put because I think the this other it's not the intersect ray, it's the other one that needs is this grate here. I guess the other thing I can try to do is just put this stuff outside there and then see if I can get the parameters without the collision mask and exclude. I just need to find. So I'm gonna take a break then. I'm gonna think about this. I need to think about like which direction to go. That's the problem. Because obviously, like this approach is not. I need to understand from first principles how it works. That's the problem. Like if I can't get the easiest solution, then I have to understand how the physics works, which might involve a bunch of things that are connected with the physics. That's the problem because it's gonna require me to understand the whole pipeline, which might take a longest time. That's the issue. So I need to understand how this part here of the query works. Then once I have a mental model of this, then I can think about like how to accomplish this. But I have to think about what is the best way to go about this because I have the other problems to solve as well. That is the issue. This whole part here, like, it's kind of, I don't know. It feels like there should be an easier way. So from first principles, what you need to do is to. The problem is that, like, there's several different. I think if you get the whole, like, you have a vector on 3D space, and then you're gonna see. This is the issue because you need to see the whole simulation, I think. So what made me want to do from here is that I would be able to check only with like only once on the process. And if I do it on the graph node, I have to traverse or like get all the elements from the graph and then check to see if any of them contains. And maybe if I do it inside of the node, I can just get the. I can just get this mouse end position and then check to see if it is inside of the. I guess like this is the easiest way probably to do it, but I'm not really sure if this way makes sense as well. So the easiest way that I'm thinking is like I move this stuff to the node graph node 3D, then I check to see if this point exists inside of the sphere. So get the position of the. Now I need to think about how to. I will probably ask ChatGPT how to do this. So based on the position, you get the geometry, and then you see if the point exists on that position. If the point exists on the sphere, then it means that the object was hit, which means that it's dragging. Then you would just get this would be the position that I put there to keep track. And then inside of the physics process, I would just do the same thing. Just call this function here, and then see. And then I wouldn't even need this one, but the problem is this number here as well, because I think that this is gonna return like the point based on this arbitrary length here. So the intersection works because it gets any object between the beginning point, which is the origin of the camera, and the final point, which is the projected ray. So you need to get in between that. You need to check if any object was hit. And I think for this, it's probably better to use something related to the physics server, because I think the physics server is more optimized. I remember seeing some other stuff on the documentation where they talk about this. That if you want more optimization, you go with the physics server. So assume that the physics server has a better way to keep track of the state of everything that is happening on this thing. If that's the case, then it's probably better to choose the physics server to get to see if anything intersected or not, which means that it would probably be better to do it from here. But then I have to spend a bunch of time trying to understand how this works. Which is gonna lead me to like a whole nother like path, I think. And I'm not really sure if it's the best path to go now. Because the other problems are kind of annoying as well. I'm gonna have to think about them. And then like if I shift my focus to the other ones, then it's gonna be it's gonna be kind of annoying as well. I think probably for today I'm just gonna spend time studying the physics. And then maybe off stream I think about it, and then tomorrow I do the other stuff, because the idea that I had, like I said before, is just to get rid of the easiest things to do now, so I can free up space in my mind to focus on this other stuff here. The signal serializer is going to be kind of annoying as well, because like is the other thing that I said, that I think that it's cleaner and easier if I change the object classes. If I change the object class and I change the emit signal function to check if the So like I put a flag variable in the object class that marks whether or not the class has serialized signals. But then, but maybe I do it the first time. So it's kind of like the flag is true if there was if the class connected to any signal. So if you call the connection on the connect function, I set the flag to true. Then on the emit signal based on that flag, I just call connect again based on values that I cached on the object. That would keep track of the signal and the target in the same way that I did on the other one. Maybe that's easier to do actually. This one I think is a lot easier to solve than this one. This is gonna require me to do the physics. But I don't wanna like shift my mind now, because I'm trying to get this dragging done because I know like based on this is gonna be very annoying. So I'm gonna take a break. I'm probably gonna spend a bunch of time studying the physics, and I'm gonna try to do it from first principles. So I'm gonna erase this stuff here. Problem is I need to like because I'm gonna have to create a flow chart to see. So probably what I'm gonna do is go from the physics frame there. So on the main iteration function, there's a physics process function that calls stuff. I'm gonna just run over with the debugger and see what kind of functions it calls, but it's probably not gonna be difficult because it uses a macro to at some points. But I think probably the best way is to go over with the debugger first. So I put the breakpoint there on the physics process and spend a bunch of time trying to study. Maybe they have something on the. I do have the pictures there as well. So there's a flowchart for the abstract classes on the implementation where they show the relationship between everything. But I think this is just for the rendering part. Let's search this there. The other thing that is kind of annoying is the translation between the mouse here. Not really sure about this as well, because it relies on this number, which is not very good, I think. Unless I'm thinking about it in the wrong way. So, but maybe it's not that big of a deal because obviously if I use twice, I can just put it on a variable as part of the class. But yeah, the thing that is kind of weird, it's like I think that if I do it an arbitrary number, then it doesn't. It's gonna get the mouse position based on that depth, but that doesn't guarantee that it's the same depth as the object. But maybe I can do it like I can get the z position of the object first, and then I pass the z position here, and that would kind of be like the same position because I'm getting the same depth, but it feels very weird, which makes me think that there's probably a better approach to do this. Hmm. Hmm. Maybe there's another approach that's this is another approach to change the mesh instance 3D, change the node class so that uses this one as well. 'Cause I think that they are on the same chain there, but I don't remember. Yeah, I'm gonna take a break, then I'll think about this later. So I'll be right back. I'm gonna put it's gonna be half an hour on the thing, but it's probably gonna take me 20 minutes. So I'll be right back. So I'm gonna spend another hour here. I think I'm gonna try one more time to make it work with the other approach. Then if it doesn't work, I'm going to I'm going to step over for however much time I have left, and then probably continue to try to solve this upstream. I think this thing probably is not gonna work. I'm gonna test like this first. So I guess the best way to, I was thinking about studying from, I set some breakpoints here to study from the loop, because on the main iteration loop, there's a function that is going to update the physics, but I think it makes a lot more sense to just study from the viewports now that I'm thinking about it because of the functions there. So it's probably like I'm not gonna be able to focus on the other stuff now because I do wanna figure this out. So it's probably gonna be better to just spend a bunch of time studying these other parts. I was gonna study them anyway at some point, but I was planning to solve the other stuff first and then studying this, but it might be better to just study now. So I guess I need to. And I already spent a bunch of time studying on the setup, but it's been a long time since I haven't looked into it. So there's probably a lot of stuff that I forgot as well. But I think I need to study the viewport class. The viewport and this other world class that they have there. And then the other one as well. And then I need to see how they are related. Because the thing that I was thinking about is that from the previous time, from the last time that I went over with the debugger, I don't remember seeing these classes on the. So like it's not clear on my mind the connection between the classes that's is using there or that ChatGPT is recommending or other people on the tutorials and the physics server class. And also the servers is kind of it's not very clear on my mind the connection between the servers and the front end parts. So here I think that there's two different ways to do this. So no, it's because it seems that this is an abstract class. Oh, physics server 3D. And so this is probably a member variable on the physics server. My guess is that the road 3D class is gonna be created on the viewports, and then it's gonna set this stuff. And the other thing is like the other is gonna be, maybe it's not gonna be very hard to, maybe probably just look into the folder there. But it is kind of annoying because it's an abstract class. So there's a bunch of classes that are abstract classes. So it's using the abstract ones. But I guess this is the connection. The connection is done through the viewport, I think. So the world calls the singleton, which is the rendering server, 3D. And there's probably classes, the classes that inherit from physics server 3D are probably because of differences in operational systems, maybe. I don't understand why. But obviously there must be a reason for this. Threads are also difficult to think about. Problem is, it might be very recent, so I'm not really sure if ChatGPT is gonna be able to know. I think I'm gonna spend some time on this off stream. I'm just gonna look into the functions. And the problem is that there's so many functions. I'm not really sure. Like maybe I should just focus on solving this issue and then, because on the other one also already spent some time looking into it, and I think it's gonna take a lot of time to figure out just the file system doc. Because I'm not gonna use the file system doc. I'm gonna create another class, and I'm just gonna try to get as much functionality as I can from file system doc. Because the problem with the file system doc is that it is designed for the editor, so there's functionality related to the editor. And this it goes back to the fundamental thing that I was talking about, that it's very hard to think about, because usually, like, most of the situations are going to depend on the current application you are building. So it's hard to draw the line of how to design the class in a way that allows you to use it in a generic way. I think this is the problem. So that's like the based on based on the class, based on the application, you change the functionality of the class. But I think like based on the way that the engine is designed and the editor is designed, I think it's probably a lot easier most of the time to create classes for the specific thing. But it doesn't make a lot of sense. That's the problem. Because it makes a lot more sense to create it like to be able to create templates, and then from the templates you specialize based on data for the different projects. And I think that the way that usually you're gonna bridge the gap is probably gonna be through signals, maybe. And because essentially, like what I need is the template of the file system and the template of the pop-up menu there, and to be able to display the different things, but then connect any signal I want. So I think that like for this reason, like since the signals is probably like very important, I might have to just spend a bunch of time figuring out another way than to use the signal serializer. I think probably changing the object function is gonna be the way to do it. 'Cause I think it's gonna happen a lot where this is the case. You have a template class, like you have something you want to do. There's gonna be generic, then you create a class for it, and then in order to make it generic, you need to make it dependent on the callback functions, I think. So the interaction with the GUI element has to be where is the it is where the variance is. So it's gonna depend on each application, but it doesn't make sense to redesign or create a new class for each application. So the other thing I don't understand is like how I think I get it. Is the public one is virtual and the other one is so if you initialize the class then you use this one. So this one is probably what the one that they use internally, maybe. But if you want to use it from outside, you're going to use this one, which comes from the other. So I guess the only thing I have to do is just put the parameter there. Or pass the results. And I think, yeah, this one is the one that returns true or false. I need to specify. Thing is, I'm not really sure if I can count on the interfaces right there. I'm not sure if I can count, like, if I can check for this to be true and then guarantee that the result's gonna have the position of the collider. Still looks like it is not. Maybe it's this. I'm gonna try without passing the other stuff. Problem is, like, I'm not really sure what is the relationship between this, like, this class and the other class there. Like, it looks like the other one inherits from the physics and is gonna be the one that is used, but I think the functions and the way that it looks there is kind of weird. Maybe, oh yeah, not the length. I think just the delta. I'm just gonna return the delta. I think if it doesn't work, then I'm gonna spend some time off stream. But I think I'm gonna try to spend time just finding an easier solution instead of. Yeah, but the problem is I might not be able to get an easy one. So yeah, I think it's probably better to spend time focusing on the other problems first, and then coming back to this later if it doesn't work. But I do think that like it's important enough of an issue that I should probably focus on this. But it's probably better, like, if I can find an easy solution, then I'm going to solve these other ones that are easier first. And so I think that the pop-up menu is probably easy. It's not gonna be very easy. Like, the hardest part about the pop-up menu and the stuff there is just to think about the line. Like, how to design the class in such a way that I can use on anything that I want. Because the functionality, based on the way that I've seen from the editor classes, like, it seems that they designed class and the class is coupled to the scene. That's the issue. So, like, because the way that the signals work, so when you connect the signal, usually you're gonna have a callback function from the class, and then on that callback function is the place where you're gonna decide uh like how and what changes. But I guess it does come down. So I guess, like, I can design the class based on the menus and just emit signals, and then yeah, but it's still kind of hard to think about, like, because this is the problem is that the functionality has to depend on the other parts, I think, of the scene. So, like, there's one approach is to I'm probably gonna change this signal serializer anyway. So I want to change so maybe just serialize from the object. So that's probably the next thing that I'm gonna do. But even after doing this, I think that either you can use global signals to emit from the I design the class based on global signals, but that's not very good because the way that I designed the global signals is thinking about more situations where you're gonna have like a singleton or yeah, basically a singleton where they are not connected directly connected, but you want that to you want it to listen that I guess you can make it for other situations based on the name of the signal and the scope. But I think that it's probably not gonna be it's not the best approach, I think, for something like a pop-up menu. It's probably better to figure out how to connect the logic uh, dependent on the scene. But in order to do that, it's kind of weird to think about. Because I guess you need to connect. Maybe it's not that hard. You just encapsulate the pop-up menus instead of a class and the menu bar instead of a class. And then you just create other functions that serve as a proxy for the menus from outside. And then from outside, you place the functionality depending on what kind of scene it is. Yeah, so I guess the line is gonna be from the perspective of the layout of the function layout that creates the initial state of the scene is gonna have only the class and it's not gonna have any signals. And then I have to create functions that allow me to connect the functionality. It allows me to uh, change the behavior of whatever happens after you click the button. The problem is you need the names in the beginning. But I guess I can just expose names as well. But I think that if this is harder to solve, then I should probably focus on the other stuff. But I think file system doc is also going to be annoying. So the decision is going to be which one to focus first on figuring out the file system doc stuff or figuring out the graph node 3D. And then I solve the other stuff first. Then I think about this later. It seems that's not working. But I guess it's because it's on the camera. So maybe I have to play. So I think it's not working. So I have to put print statements as well to see. It's definitely not working. Hmm. So I think I have to put print statements there to see, because it's probably calling the functions, but it's just not setting this to true, I think. Or maybe it is. So I have to. It's obviously hitting this part because of this. So obviously the problem has to be here. I think I'm gonna stop streaming here. I'm just gonna continue to study this stuff off stream and then tomorrow I'm probably gonna decide what to do. But I think I'm probably gonna focus on the other problems that are easier first. Then when it comes down to either this one or this one, I think they're probably gonna be roughly the same amount of time that I'm gonna have to invest. So the other ones are probably solved first. And the layout manager is gonna be kind of annoying as well. But I'm not really sure. And the problem with this one is that like I have to contemplate whether or not it's worth it to do this. Because it's relatively easy to do this. They have a doc pop-up context on the editor, which is the thing that allows you to change the docs on the editor. But if you want to do it on a generic way, then it might be kind of annoying. But I guess like this stuff is probably, yeah, I'm not gonna, it's just way later after I solve the other stuff. Because the issue is gonna be to create, I'm gonna have to create a generic class that allows us to change the layout, but it's probably gonna be similar to the way that they have it there. So just get from the way that they did it, but change so that it works with an arbitrary number of docs. But the issue is that they are creating the docs based on integers, I think, that they do with, and it is related to the type container. So if you want to do it with any nodes, then either you put the functionality based on the node name, and then you always make sure that you have the same node names for the docs, or you make it based on an index or something like that. I think name is probably easier because it allows you to. The problem is that it couples the like the name to that stuff. I guess I can create another variable in the node class. Yeah, maybe that's the way actually. So create a variable. Yeah, but it would have to be a string as well to differentiate. As name is easier because you can call find child with the scene roots, and then you just find the endpoints of the docs. So like creating the functionality to remove the docs is just gonna be switching the nodes on the tree. Yeah, I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna continue to study this off stream. If I stream tomorrow, then I'm probably gonna try to solve the signal serializer stuff. So change the object class to implement signal serialization from the object. So I don't have to use the other class to serialize. And then probably if I decide that it's too hard to do this, then I'm gonna try to solve the other ones. And then at the moment that I decide to study file system, then I'm gonna think about which one to do first. So see you next time.